Hi everyone and welcome to the podcast Hello EL, where we decode future of work and skills that matter the most. My name is Ridhima Bedi Thareja, Brand and Marketing Manager at Employability.life, a wholly owned subsidiary of Federation University Australia. Over the past few years, the world has seen a major transformation, and the transformation's reason is artificial intelligence. It has shifted from the university classrooms, research labs, to workplaces, and even in our pockets. But the question is innovation just a department in the universities? Or is it ingrained in the system that how universities operate, teach, lead, and inspire? If the birth of AI was in the early 1950s, 2020 is seeing a major transformation. To delve into this topic more, we have Professor Iven Mareels with us, who is Executive Dean and Pro Vice Chancellor at Federation University Australia, with more than 3 decades of experience, a system engineer, an academic leader, and advocate, which has seen the innovation in the education history as well. We are honored to have you, Professor Mareels.
Pleasure to be here.
Professor Mareels, let's start at the beginning. Year 1956, Dartmouth College, a group of researchers who coined the term AI, artificial intelligence, and it has seen a major transformation from perceptron in 1957 to early expert systems. Universities has seen everything. What's your take? Where did universities got right with these breakthrough ideas?
It's basically the question that you're asking that matters. So when the term artificial intelligence was coined, it was coined almost on a false pretense, because it was said that because we understand how we learn, we can simulate it, and therefore we can do artificial intelligence.
Right.
It's not true. We didn't know then what learning is, and we still don't know today. But the audacity of the question spurred on a lot of people to think, what does it really mean for a machine to think? And the question was asked in 1950 by Alan Turing.
Right.
So for universities, it's the thought that matters. And can we explore it? And can we understand it? And that's what we try to do. And not everything was a smooth sailing. You mentioned expert systems. They were a disaster. Expert systems have a complexity curve. They get contradictory very quickly. We couldn't make it work. But it's not the end for an academic. It's, okay, this doesn't work. And it's really important what doesn't work. So eventually we came up with something that did work, and it came across from neural networks and machine learning. And that's the journey that you're on as an academic, and that's the journey that universities were on from the beginning. And it was not only universities, because from day one, artificial intelligence had people from different disciplines and from industry participating.
Right.
And so it was the understanding that we were dealing with something really complex, really worthwhile, and that there was technology available to help us to get there. And the technology that we needed was a digital computer, which came very, well, just invented in a sense. And that made it possible to do that. And that journey has gone on with victories, hypes, and downcasted, and nothing works, and despair, but then come out of it again. And now the technology is actually at the point where we are again in a hype cycle where things are going really, really well. We feel like we've conquered Mount Everest, but there's actually much more to be done. But that's the joy of being in the research and looking at the innovation and seeing how it all develops. It's not always straightforward from A to Z. It's a very non-linear process of failure and resurrection.
But what do you think that AI has seen a major transformation, right? It is progressing even till now. Was it because universities had freedom to fail, that they have, you are a doctorate yourself, and I would really love to know that how do you feel progress from that time to now, because you have completed your PhD somewhere around 1987.
Yeah. Knowledge progresses all the time. And given that there are more people participating, it's going to go faster and faster. So our contribution becomes smaller and smaller as individuals. But when you have lots of people working together on big questions, you can make a lot of progress very quickly. And I think that's where we're in this stage now. We have a technology that seemingly works, can scale, and we're throwing a lot of resources behind it. In my days, research was very individualistic. In research, we're always used to failure. Every paper we write more likely gets a negative reaction than a positive reaction. So failure is just part and parcel of doing research. If it doesn't give you any pain, it's probably not worth progressing.
Right.
And there is always competition.
Of course.
If you're working on an idea that there is no competition for you, either better be Einstein or you know that you're doing the wrong thing. So the competition is important, and hence the failure is important, and the persistence is important. The quality of the question is important. So university has seen a lot of change. It was part of our mandate, but we couldn't have done it alone, because the technology today is no longer a technology of universities, and in universities it's definitely a technology that belongs to the industry and the technologists that have the power to be able to really generate these very, very large scale models. And that has the biggest change. We always worked with simple models.
Right.
Now we're actually in complex models.
But how did this discovery of change? Because if you talk about the AI cycle from LXNet to AlphaGo and then to this transformation where we have the GPT, so how do you think these changes are inculcated in the university cultures? Is it just a department these days, or are these actually ingrained in the systems that how universities operate?
It's more ingrained. This is research.
Right.
It's certainly not in the education system, the normal. In the education system, we celebrate high distinctions and excellence of achievement. But in research, we want to see the difficult questions, we expect failure, and we expect persistence. So trial and error is going to be part of it. With less trial and less error, if we possibly can. If we can predict, it's important. But coming to prediction that is reliable is the main thing. That's the game that we play. That's the contribution of the university. Once we have tested an idea sufficiently to say this can work, then someone should be able to try it out. And in this case, the trial requires resources that often are not available at the university. That doesn't stop us from thinking about it.
Right. So you have been on both the parts of dice, I would say, because when you were a student doing your PhD, and now you have more than 3 decades of experience in the education sector, as we are talking about the transformation which has happened not just in the AI but also in the university culture. Would you like to share any example or probably any moment from your PhD days which you still remember and has been a lifelong learning for you?
Yeah, I suppose I can. So I'm by training an electrical engineer and a mechanical engineer. Electromechanical engineer is the title of the degree that I had. So I did major in power systems, systems engineering, and mechanical systems. And I asked myself the question at the end of my undergraduate, this very complicated electrical grid is getting so complicated that it will be beyond the capacity of human brain to actually control it, to manage it. So what machine can we invent that can help us to do this? That can observe all the things that happen in the grids and then manage it so that you had good power at good voltages and at the right amount.
Right.
That's a very difficult problem. And so we abstracted it and made it simpler and said, what if there is a system that just could learn from its past observations, predict the future, and has maintained a particular performance? And I created a very, very simple, as simple as I could possibly make it. And not only me, but together with my supervisors. And it turned out that even the simplest system that had these properties could not be predictable because it became chaotic. And so once I realized that, and we wrote it up, we realized that whatever is learning is a lot more complicated than we ever given it credits for. It seems this linear thing that you do. You learn and you speak, and you learn a little bit more in our algebra, and you learn a little bit more in our abstract algebra. It's actually a highly nonlinear process that you cannot predict where it goes. And that was the eye-opener for me at the time. I was probably naive in asking the question, in that it turned out to be a lot more harder and more difficult. But it was also the beauty of doing the thesis and the work. And so yeah, that was the beauty of it all. And I don't think that essence has actually ever changed. Every PhD is still the same thing. Asking a question that's worth answering, that someone else wants to listen to your answer.
Right.
If you can do that, you deserve the PhD. It's still the same. It always has been the same. And even those words are not mine. Actually, it was my supervisor who told me that. But the whole point is, that's the essence of curiosity that we have at universities. What has changed is, when I was a student, we had very few like me. Now it's more of a sausage factory. It's a lot more people.
Right.
We have to teach much more at a deeper. The knowledge has vastly increased, to the extent that in engineering in particular, we teach less and less of the whole of engineering, and people come out with almost not understanding anymore. You mechanical engineer, I'm a civil engineer, but we can't talk to each other because we actually don't manifestly have the same language anymore.
Of course, yeah.
That's sad. AI is going to change that, because AI is taking the knowledge base and say, oh, I give it to you for nothing. What AI doesn't give you is what is in your brain.
Of course.
You have to learn it yourself. You have to understand it. But if we could have a common language over which we could reason, then we could bring things together, and therefore it amplifies what we as humans can do. That's the beauty of what it can do. And that's a big difference. Because until now, I think that universities were almost doomed to become more and more specialized about less and less.
I completely agree to you. Firstly, with the point that you have mentioned, curiosity is inbuilt in every researcher. That is why they are researchers. And secondly, about the AI. I think AI has made many things simpler for people. It can actually make things understandable in a very simple way that could have been very complicated. So yeah.
True, but it also comes with the danger.
Of course, because I think it's also up to you that how you are using whatever the AI is giving. It needs right amount of mind and time to understand that.
Yes, it's not because the AI knows something that
Of
you
course.
understand it.
Of course.
And the AI doesn't understand it either.
Right.
So it's still an effort today to create AI that can emulate logic and reasoning. That is still lacking. It is actually an important feature that is lacking. So we rely on humans to reason and humans to develop the logic. How you go from A to B with certainty. That's logic. Whereas the computer can't do that. The computer gives you a statistical viewpoint of what the knowledge was in the past. Right. Very useful if you can reason over it. But for a computer to reason, we don't have that yet. That is work that is still in progress. And making computers reason is very, very hard work. And there is even a belief that maybe it will also mean that the computers become less apt in developing further.
Do you think it is going to come up with the same solution in the coming years? Because AI still don't give always the answer which you expect. It really matters what are you prompting, and the prompt has to be a little too detailed. But what do you think, what according to you, do you think there is much more which is there for the AI to progress and develop?
Oh yeah. We think AI has achieved something and is at a big hype cycle right now. But the question that you're asking is very fundamental. There's a lot of work in that. For AI to understand the question properly and provide you with an answer that is really logically consistent is still beyond it. Moreover, for AI to give you an answer that is truth rather than just the average of all the answers that have been given before is impossible, because it can't distinguish what the logic was to get there. So therefore, you will get an answer. You might be lazy about it and say accept that answer as a representation of the knowledge of the past. But it may be a skewed answer. And unless you can reason over it and ask how to dig a little bit deeper than the surface of the answer, you will be misled. AI in itself cannot yet bring you to the point that, well, the majority says this, but actually the real answer is here. We don't have that capability yet. And that's what you're asking for.
Right.
I think that is still development. That is still where we have to go and where the community as a whole is looking after. The way we do that for the moment is that we use a lot of experts with AI at play and say, oh, don't trust this answer, do this. Trust this answer, do that. We do tests on AI to check whether that all can be done, but it's still a long way to go. So the curation of the data that you can reason over is really important, and it is still very labor intensive, to be honest. And then the next step is the reasoning over it and helping to stitch it together. For the moment, we use humans for that.
I was listening to one of your masterclass yesterday where you mentioned, you came up with a question, whether machines would be ever able to think. Would you like to throw a light on that for our audience?
So this is a very famous question by Alan Turing, 1950, in his article in Mind, Can Machines Think? It's partly the Alan Turing test, right, that we're coming out of. So machines have a special meaning in that context, and thinking has a special meaning in the context. Turing told us, or used to call out a number of arguments against machines can think, because it's kind of something that goes against the grain, right? It's a product of ourselves, so why could it do, and can we assign human properties to a machine? Most of the answers that say, no, you can't do that, are not correct. And he refutes them very easily. There is one answer in that paper, the answer that he called the Ada Lovelace objection. Ada Lovelace, 100 years before Alan Turing, said, but the intent of the machine comes from a human. So therefore, you can't really say that the machine thought. It's executing a program based on the data. The data comes from the human, the model comes from the human, the machine comes from the human. It has no intent of its own, it's the user. I tend to agree with Ada Lovelace. Intent is really important.
Right.
That is not to say that the appearances of thinking can be there, because it's hard to tell sometimes between real thinking and just appearances.
That's deep, and I think that's why I have always been an opinion that it's the person who invented machines. It's the person who is behind that. So if he can think, machines can. But as per what the person who has built it commanding.
I will let you get away with the he. So, yes, so machines have a purpose, and we normally invent them for a purpose. There is one difference. I will use the same example as I used yesterday in the talk. If I give you a hammer,
right,
you may think that the hammer is to hit a nail into the timber. But you could also use the hammer to knock my head down. That's your intent. But the damage you can do with the hammer is maybe one nail and one head. But with AI, your damage is a lot more multipliable. So the responsibility we have to take to deal with AI is such that it's the scale of the technology. AI can reach 8 billion people. If you do that with positive intent,
right,
I'm all for it. I'm the one that, let's use AI and let's help us to do the right thing. But even my intent may not always be pure. And even if my intent was pure, I may not understand the consequences of what I'm doing. So these are the things that frighten me to some extent, that we are dealing with a technology that's extremely powerful, can reach almost everybody because we're all connected to the internet. And we don't yet know completely what the consequences are. Just as little as we knew what the consequences are of your mobile phone and how that actually changes our mind and how it changes our brain. What is AI going to do? We have no idea what AI is going to do to our brain. We could all become very lazy and suddenly completely be dependent on the machine deciding everything for ourselves. I hope we never get there, because that would be a really stupid future to look forward to. Or we could become the slave of a machine even in that context. On the other side, we could also try to use it to help us solve equity on us and sustainability and look at new energies. That would be so much better.
I think I was just having a podcast earlier to this one, and I was discussing it with Dr. Biswas, who is a person behind HSBC's WPB risk department, and she's a risk analytics expert. So we were talking about data analytics, that how whatever we do on our mobile phones, they capture the data and they provide us everything. Mm-hmm. If you think of right now something in your mind, probably food, that will, the notification from some of the food applications will pop up and tell you that you need to have a burger. So we were having a discussion on that. So I feel the impact of AI is huge. It's not, if we think from the other point of view, it is also making the human a little lazy. Mm-hmm. Because we don't need to actually dig into multiple things. Now we just have to think and search a little, and we'll get a notification. These are the things what you can do. So it has I think it has abundant our ability to actually search for multiple things. So what's your take on that?
I have to agree by and large with what you say, which means that for educators like myself, the task is even more important to look for and giving everybody an ability to think critically.
Right.
To look at what's in front of them, being able to understand whether this is truth or fiction, even though they don't understand the material. Mm-hmm. Because one of the beauties of AI is that you can ask anything about any domain and it will give you an answer. And if you are gullible, you will take the answer on face value and say, this is it, the machine told me so, Google is right, or Gemini is right, or OpenAI is right. And that's the end of it. But if you were a little bit more critical, and if you said, but if it's really so, what if I say, okay, you told me this, can you relate it to that? Can you dig a little bit deeper in the answer that was given? The AI will follow your prompts and eventually guide you, hopefully, to a contradiction, if it was all rubbish. Or after a while, you say, I have to give up, I think this must be right. You have tested it then and found a way of, for yourself, convincing yourself that I can rely on this piece of information. For the task I have to do, this is sufficient. And that's a really important question, because many things we can do without understanding everything. Mm-hmm. We only need to understand enough to be able to go forward. And it's sometimes dangerous because enough may not be enough, but if we can give ourselves a convincing answer to that, we have done a lot better than just taking it on face value. And that's the danger that you expressed. Taking things on face value is becoming riskier and riskier. And in principle, a lot of cybercrime right now exploits our laziness. You can become rich very quickly, please press here.
Right.
Very stupid thing to do, but very tempting.
I agree to you, but I think AI is dangerous for sure to an extent, but it is blessing for few people. I'll share one of a very personal example of mine. So my friend, somebody in her family, her mother probably was dealing with some medical issues. So they were not able to get it, that what exactly is there. So they just put it, all these symptoms on ChatGPT, and they got an idea what is the problem. They knew that to what doctor they had to visit. So, and that really saved her life. So that's
a very nice example. I'd be a little bit worried myself to use ChatGPT, but there are ways of finding very decent information by, maybe if you go to the Mayo Clinic in the United States, their website is a pretty good website with respect to information. But I would always say that even there, Dr. Google is a very dangerous doctor to trust your life with. And so we train people to be medical doctors. I would say, let's rely on those people to make the judgment call. But it does help to at least know that there is something wrong. And so in that sense, yes, I can understand it. But I think the doctor is still important.
Doctors are really important, for sure. Nobody can replace that. But I feel the preliminary treatment she was able to give to her mother for the problem which was there, that really saved her life. So I think at that point of time, AI really played a vital role. So now moving towards some other things. After the transformer breakthrough in the 2017, AI has seen a major shift. Even if you consider the changes which has happened between 2017 to 2025 till date, they are huge. Even in terms of investment, as per Stanford's AI Index report, it was $4 billion investment in the year 2022, which reached to 39.9 billions in the year 2024, and that's all on the Gen AI. So, what do you think is actually making these investments bigger and bigger with the passing of time?
Well, there are a few reasons. First of all, the potential has
Right.
been recognized, and the market that it can address is enormous. So, being there first, I think, is liberating money to be able to have a part of the cake. But also at the same time, the realization is there that the technology is actually scaling rapidly, and that the models that we are asking for and the data that we're asking for are growing at an incredible rate. We can have a look at how big the models are, but they grow roughly fourfold every year. Energy requirements grow therefore about a quadratic part, so maybe 16-fold in the same time. So we need to invest in the technology in order to bring that energy requirement down, otherwise it's not sustainable. But we also have to invest in the application, because it only makes money, or it only gives you return on investment when it actually is being used. So I can see there is a huge amount of economic interest in making AI work, and therefore we benefit. And it comes from the productivity gains that we observe. So as AI affects our work, we will become more productive. That's the assumption, right? So if AI can offload some of our cognitive workload onto the AI, we can focus on the things that AI can't do. In the meantime, we have a robot with infinite capacity almost, right? It works 24/7, is always at our disposal, can do the work that we don't, otherwise the menial work can be taken away. Then we need great productivity. That productivity is money. And so therefore, that money can be harvested. So therefore, we're going to invest. And now we're talking about world scale. So we're talking about the entire world economy that we can harvest money from. So it's worth racing and being first. So that's what is happening right now. We don't see yet the full effect, but we see already effect. Productivity gains are being reported, are being tracked, and we see that there is actually money to be made. Do we get the full potential? Maybe not, but maybe that's not the point. The point is that we can already make money, and therefore we invest more. And what we also realize is that we have to invest more because the technology is actually growing, and our technology is be better than the next person's technology. So we're going to be in a race until we give up racing, essentially. That is part of the problem that I can see. We're working in a world at world scale, and we're trying to achieve almost a greedy objective.
But do you think, as we are talking about AI and productivity, do you think AI enhances the productivity, or it's the opposite? I'm talking in the human context.
So if it didn't create productivity, there is no money.
Right.
If it was only wasting our time, then the only thing we could think of was AI for internet games and things like that. And there's some money to be made in that as well. If it was only for negative things, me stealing your money is not productive. It actually costs society money to do it that way. So I have to create new money, and the only new money, in my opinion, at this point in time from our economics comes from productivity gains. We can do the same things that we always have done, but with less effort. Therefore, there's some free money available to do other things, more adventurous, more important, and that's how it can grow. If that promise can be fulfilled, AI will be an industrial revolution of note. It's already an industrial revolution of note. The numbers are growing. But if it doesn't give productivity, it's not going to work.
Agree, because I think AI makes your tasks little easy, and it saves your time, and then you can invest that particular time in some other things, and time is money.
Correct.
Federation University has a proud legacy dating back to 1870, with now over 18,000 students now operates all across the Victoria. How do you think federation structure actually, in the federation structure, innovation is ingrained and it's not just a department?
Innovation is ingrained, I think, almost by definition in every university. We have to contribute to society, and we can contribute to society simply by creating talent and preparing talent for the jobs that are there. That's one way we contribute. But the other way we contribute is that we actually ask questions that nobody else can ask and change the way people think about things. The ideas matter. Now, that ability to innovate goes back to the initiation of universities, and there is a nice interaction between economic well-being of a society and the ability to have a university. In return, the university does have to produce that talent that is valid for the society and has to contribute these new ideas that can actually make a difference in the society. For Federation University, the question of existence came out of gold. That was our origin. Ballarat mine had gold mine. Ballarat was the richest town in the world. It had plenty of money to be able to afford a university. It did not only afford university, it also afforded a TAFE college as well, so that we could focus on labor, as well as managing that labor, as well as doing the right engineering. That was our beginnings. We had to innovate from day one to make the industry work. And it became harder and harder as the gold disappeared. Right. Hence more and more innovation. So from our very beginning, the university was innovative. It is also part of our charter when it says education, research, and innovation. Because education will never be stale if the talent goes into the society. But research can stay stale if it doesn't go back into society. Right. And one way that research can back into society is through publication. The other one is through innovation. And that is the part that has to be permeating throughout the whole culture of the university in order for it to really be a part. That doesn't mean that everybody has to innovate, but it means that you have to be able to give the people that are willing to innovate a chance to understand what it takes, whether they're willing to put all their eggs in one basket, whether they're willing to stick their neck out and fail and try something that is new for society. It has to be there. If it is not there, it's depriving your student population from a real opportunity.
That's powerful. I feel universities plays a very influential role in every student's life. So how do you think Federation University is actually playing a vital role for the transformation of their students?
It's actually, when you read the mission statement of the university, we say transform lives and enrich society. Transform life is our opportunity. I like to use an Indian proverb here. Education is lighting a candle, not filling a vessel. It's not what we teach. It's a big misnomer. It is how we teach, and it's how we learn.
Right.
Once we have taught you how to learn, you can be an independent learner and you will contribute to society everywhere you go. That's essentially the nutshell of the beauty of transforming lives. How you learn. It's a maturity thing. As a child, you learn because you have to learn somehow. You have to be able to speak with all the other adults that seem to be able to speak. You learn to walk because you want to get around. There is a purpose to it. But the purpose of understanding is something that takes a bit more time. And I think that's what the university really brings to the mind. And there is no greater pleasure. For me, I love working with PhD students. Forming a mind, being able to work with a mind and seeing it grow. There is no greater pleasure for a teacher. But then also that mind goes out there and does something really amazing. I think that's the real essence of universities, transforming people to be independent thinkers.
Employability.life is also associated with Federation University. It's a wholly owned subsidiary of Federation University Australia. So how do you think the projects which Employability.life do, the kind of learning they provide to the learners, to the students, is actually transforming the students with a better career?
It's the experiential bit. So a theory is really important. And I love theory. I would say there is nothing better than a good theory because it allows the prediction. But the theory will always remain stale until you have tried it in practice.
Of course.
So often we are scared of going there. Some people don't need pushing and they are exploring themselves. Oh, you've told me this, let me try it out. But for many of us, there is a bit of trepidation of trying things out. So how do you help a child to walk? By not scared of falling, right? So this is what Employability.life does with the student. That you don't have to be scared of the real world. You don't have to be scared of work. You actually know a lot and you can do it. And here is a way of learning that you can do it. That experience, I think, is really important.
And providing that work simulation environment where a student gets an idea that this is how it is to be done.
And how I can contribute, because that is the real learning, right?
Of course.
It's not what you can do, but what I can do in a way. Can I stay relevant? And this is one of the biggest issues for companies today. Work is changing very rapidly.
Right.
If I hire you today, why will you be valid for me 2 years from now? Will you have ground? Will you actually have ground enough to be part of my company today? And if it isn't 2 years, I'm going to lose an awful lot of money in employing you. So it's that confidence building of being relevant and staying relevant in the career that you choose and that you grow in. It's fantastic that we can help students to have that maturity and confidence in themselves to go forward.
And I feel that's why lifelong learning concepts are very important for the students. Something to learn which will not remain with them for a particular point of time, but for the lifelong. So with this, I would like to ask my another question, because this podcast is for all the young professionals and even for the people who are into the profession for long years, but they really thrive to grow. So what do you think are the things every learner should focus on learning these days, specifically in the world of AI? What are probably, if you can share 3 of them, like what are the skills which are required to sustain in the market, not just for today, but for the lifelong?
So I will disregard immediately what you learn. That's not important. Let AI do the what you learn part. But critical thinking, an ability to reason over a body of knowledge is absolutely number one. You have to be able to know what you're dealing with, even if it's not your domain. So our focus as educators has to be on being able to distinguish truth from fiction. Being able to be relying on the information that you have available in order to make the next step. That is a critical part, number one. Number two, which may surprise you a little, is intuition. The world that we live in claims that the data is sufficient to answer every question. WRONG, wrong. It's not true. There are so many domains of knowledge where we don't have enough data to be able to take the next step.
Right.
How do you step in the dark? You need intuition. You need to know which direction to go because you have enough background information from all the domains around you to say, here may lie a right answer. That intuition comes from experience and trusting intuition that you have. Everybody has intuition. A child has intuition. It's creative. And like Salvador Dali said, if we only could retain the creativity we had at 5 years old, I would say the same thing for intuition. It's really critical. We underplay intuition. We always say, look at the knowledge and then go forward. I say there's not enough. You need intuition. And the last one I would say is judgment. There are questions that we shouldn't be asking because we have simply nothing to hang off our heads off. And then we have to say, let's back off until we know a little more before we actually go doing. Let's explore abstractly rather than doingly. And one of the things would be brain interfaces right now, I would say. It would be a very strange thing to do right now. I know it can be done and I know it will be done, but should we do it? That's where judgment comes into play. When is the right time to do something? And sometimes we have to be a little bit more humble and say, it's not the right time.
I completely agree, and I think every learner should focus on critical thinking, intuition, and also judgment, as you have that also plays a vital role. But I really agree to intuition because I was reading one book on neuroscience where it was mentioned the greatest innovations has come without data points and with just intuitions.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. and also sometimes by looking somewhere completely different.
Yeah, of course.
So we learn about Hilbert spaces, and Hilbert wrote once in his life, at the end of his life, I'd be very happy that nobody's ever able to do anything at all with what I've invented. In reality is that now every single processing that we do is totally reliant on Hilbert spaces. So he would turn in his grave maybe because of it, but it's the beauty of the intellect that actually discovered something that was really useful. But in his case, was totally abstract and of interest only to himself, maybe.
That's wonderful and that's powerful. Thank you so much, Professor Mareels, for joining us today. And to all the audience, we will be winding up with this, but stay tuned to the podcast Hello EL because we are yet to come with more.